If you're listening to these words, perhaps you're searching for something, a little rest, a moment of stillness, a sense of peace, or something you cannot even name. Maybe you've traveled far, tried many things, seeking that feeling. Yet deep inside, there remains an emptiness, like an old, abandoned room. There are nights when you lie in a warm bed, but your heart feels cold like the midnight mist. There are days when you smile on the outside, while within, you're aching from a deep, silent loneliness. You've tried to be strong. You've worn many masks to show your strength, to prove your worth. You thought that was who you are, that it was something to be proud of, something others should respect and admire. But afterwards, a strange hollowness settles in, and you don't quite know why. You could be walking among a crowd and still feel lost, alone. If even one part of this rings true for you, then today, I invite you to sit with me. Let's gently begin an inner journey, not so I can preach or tell you how to live, but simply to walk alongside you on this sacred path back to your true self. That part of you that is pure, kind, compassionate, and already whole. To help you gradually return to a life of peace and fulfillment, a life that, perhaps without knowing it, you've always carried within you. This journey, maybe you've already begun it long ago, only you didn't realize it yet. I say this because I too have walked that path, and I've met many others often past the age of 35 who carry the same quiet questions in their hearts, no matter their outer success or failure. Questions like, why was I born into this life? Who am I truly? What is the real meaning of life? Why do I always try to please others at the expense of myself? Why am I caught in this race for money and status? What's the point of all this success, all this wealth? Perhaps you've asked some of these questions too. If so, then I believe your journey has already begun, and maybe that's why you're here, right now, seeking your own answers. I don't know who you are, what you do, or what burdens, responsibilities, or dreams you carry. I only know this. You are a human being, breathing, alive, feeling, and yearning to return to a life that is truly your own. And just like that, you are already worthy of returning to yourself to live as you truly are, a being of innate goodness, filled with the light of Buddha nature. I know that in this hyper-technological world, we are taught how to succeed, how to be better, faster, stronger. But rarely does anyone teach us how to slow down, how to turn inward, how to simply be ourselves, to be vulnerable without shame, to be silent without guilt, to pause without fear of being left behind, to act without worrying about being judged. We grow up caught in spirals of power and wealth until we start to believe deeply that we must become someone to be valuable, that we must achieve something great to be considered successful, to be loved and respected. And so, we begin to accumulate fame, accomplishments, status, praise, recognition. We rush to chase life, race against time, desperately hoping to grasp the things we believe will finally make us feel whole. But the more we accumulate, the further we drift away from ourselves. Some things we can touch, but cannot hold. Some things we possess, but never truly belong to us. And so we fall into a cycle of pressure and desire. Have you ever experienced that? If yes, feel free to leave a comment below. This cycle can make you feel hollow, even in the middle of a dazzling celebration. You can reach a huge milestone, receive praise and applause, and yet feel completely empty inside. Why? Because your desires never really paused, and because your true self was never in your business card, your job title, or the roles society asked you to play. It dwells in a place much deeper, much quieter, a place that has always been there but has been buried beneath layers of worldly dust. It lives in your eyes when you look as someone you love, in the warmth of a hug that asks for nothing in return. It lives in an unrestrained tear, in that moment when you release a long sigh not because you're tired, but because you've carried something nameless in your heart for too long. That true self doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't need to be perfect. It carries no past stand, doesn't chase the future. It only needs to be presentfully in this very moment, to live, to feel. In the Dharma, this state is called the primordial mind, the original, pure, luminous nature of mind, untouched by defilement. It is neither born nor destroyed. It's only obscured by layers of illusion and craving. It's the same mind you had as a child when you laughed at the clumsy jump of a kitten, cried your heart out over a lost toy, loved someone for no reason, and got upset but quickly forgot. That mind was pure, was real. But as time passed, it became covered by dust comparison, judgment, expectation, and desire. And gradually, we came to believe that the dust was who we are. So to return to ourselves means slowly brushing off those layers until we can see clearly the true essence of who we are. I'm not saying you have to give everything up in order to come back. I'm not telling you to retreat to a mountain or a forest or leave behind your current life. The journey home is not about a place. It's about presence. You can live in the heart of the city and still be calm. You can go to work each day and still be deep. You can meet deadlines, cook meals, care for your children, and still live in truth with yourself. Coming home is not an escape. It's the clear seeing of who you are in every moment you're alive. If you are working, know that you are working. If you are eating, know that you are eating. If you are listening, that you are listening. That is mindfulness. That is awareness. And right now, in this very moment, as you listen to these words, you are living in truth with yourself. So let's pause for a moment. If you can, place your hand gently over your heart. Feel the warmth from your palm. Feel the quiet rhythm of your heartbeat reminding you that you are still alive. Gently observe how is your mind right now. Is there a hint of anxiety, a flutter of restlessness, or perhaps a soft wave of calm beginning to rise? Breathe in deeply and breathe out slowly. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to think about anything. Just breathe. Let it be a gentle reminder. I'm still alive, and I'm still here. From this breath, we'll continue moving through old beliefs, outdated stories, through the labels others once placed upon you, and even through the harsh words you've said to yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not talented enough, I haven't achieved enough, I must try harder. Slowly, very slowly now, Let's begin the return step by step, like a patient craftsman inspecting an old water pipe and not rushing, not forcing. You don't need to remember everything. You don't need to try and release all that you've carried for years in just one moment. All you need to do is observe, with clarity, without judgment, without blame, without punishing yourself. And if, in one brief moment, just one, you find yourself in tears, let them fall, not because you are weak, but because you are beginning to dissolve an old shell you once built to protect yourself from pain, from criticism, from the collisions of life. That shell once served a purpose. It helped you survive, but now it may be the very thing that dims the light within you, a light that has always been there, only forgotten. I am here not as someone who knows everything. I am not sitting in a high place to preach, nor do I hold any absolute truths. I am simply someone who once felt lost. Someone who used to believe that I had to change so much, that I had to be perfect, had to strive relentlessly to be loved and accepted. But along the journey back to myself, I slowly learned something simple, yet profoundly true. Knowing what is enough allows you to live authentically. And maybe, just maybe, you're on that same journey not to become someone else, but to return to the whole, pure, and honest version of who you've always been. Why do we often lose ourselves? Before we can return, before we can reclaim the truth of who we are, we must pause and look deeply into one essential question. Why do we so often lose ourselves? Perhaps you've asked this question many times in quiet, sleepless nights. And below are some of the subtle but deeply rooted reasons that quietly pull many of us away from our own inner truth. 1. Because we've grown too used to performing. From a young age, each of us steps onto an invisible stage. There, we learn to smile when we really want to cry. We say thank you without meaning it. We nod and pretend to listen while our minds drift elsewhere. At first, it seems harmless, just a way to be polite, to please the grown-ups, to avoid conflict. But over time, those actions become reflexes, and those reflexes form a habit of living disconnected from our truth. Day by day, we put on masks at work, at home, with friends, even online. These masks are carefully crafted to be liked, to be accepted, or at the very least, to avoid judgment. But the price we pay is that we gradually lose the ability to feel our real emotions. We can no longer tell the difference between a genuine smile and a forced one, between authentic tears and those that have been programmed by habit. And so, we end up living our entire lives like actors in a play, yet we ourselves no longer remember why we took on the role in the first place. The Buddha once taught, "If the mind is not sincere, the way cannot be seen." When we perform for too long, we drift away from our true heart, and that is the very first step toward losing ourselves. 2. Because we live according to preset templates. Society has always laid out a standard path. Do well in school, pass university exams, find a stable job, get married, have children, buy a house, buy a car. And if anyone strays from this path, they are often seen as a failure or someone who doesn't quite fit in. The older generations often impose these templates not out of cruelty, but simply because they haven't yet updated their map for the new age. But those who suffer most are the ones living in the present. We grow up under the heavy weight of expectations. Be obedient to be loved. Be successful to be acknowledged. Be competent to be heard. As a result, we begin to sacrifice our own dreams in order to follow the road others have drawn for us. We study the major someone else picked, love someone our family approves of, and work a job society labels as stable. And each time we do this, we move further away from our true self. If we keep living by the voices of others, we will forget the voice within. If we keep nodding just to keep the peace, we'll gradually lose the ability to choose for ourselves. In the Buddhist path, self-awareness, self-understanding, and self-mastery are three essential powers for entering the way of awakening. But when we live entirely by others' templates, we unintentionally abandon all three and slowly lose our connection with who we really are. 3. Because we are swept into the whirlwind of work and survival. In this era, opportunities are everywhere, but so is pressure. In a world driven by speed and productivity, people gradually become walking machines. Work is no longer just a part of life, consumes the whole of life. People wake up early, rush out the door, bury themselves in meetings, deadlines, KPIs, and return home completely drained. Day after day, like a programmed machine. Emotions are suppressed. The body is neglected. Relationships are overlooked. And we don't even realize when we became exhausted. In that reality, a person's worth is equated with productivity, with achievements, with status. Those who slow down are seen as weak. Those who pause are labeled as falling behind. We're afraid of being left behind, so we keep running, yet we don't even know what we're running for. When survival becomes the goal instead of the means, the soul becomes just another tool. We no longer live from a place of inner freedom. We merely react to external demands. The Buddha once said, "Those who do not master themselves will be mastered by the world around them." When we withdraw from being the master of our own lives, that is when we lose ours quietly, but deeply. 4. Because we're immersed in the traps of a modern society. Never before have humans had access to information as quickly and easily as now. With just a tap, we can travel the entire digital world, yet we drift further and further away from the place we're truly in. We no longer eat to feel. We eat to take photos. We no longer listen to understand. We listen to argue. We no longer live to live, but to prove that we're alive. Each time we pick up our phones, we scroll past hundreds of images, headlines, and stories. And in doing so, we're not just consuming content, we're draining the vital energy within us. The longer we stay in the virtual world, the more we disconnect from reality. Our minds become filled with superficial distractions, and over time, we grow indifferent to our own selves. Joy becomes shallow. Sadness loses its clarity. Love feels distant. And loneliness in a crowd is no longer surprising. Technology itself is not the problem. But when it replaces presence, when it replaces the ability to listen inwardly, that's when we begin to lose our way. As Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When you lose the present moment, you lose your life." 5. Because we suppress emotions and overvalue the intellect. Society praises intellect as the mark of maturity. We are taught, be stronghold, it together control your emotions. But reason is not the enemy. It only becomes dangerous when it stands alone. Emotions are not weakness. They are signals from within. They help us understand ourselves, recognize our boundaries, and connect with others. When we suppress emotion, it doesn't disappear, it flows inward. That inner current builds up and eventually overflows in the form of depression, anger, emotional numbness, or a sense of being lost in everyday life. We think we are being rational, but in truth, we're just running away. We believe we are composed, yet we've lost touch with the heart. The Buddha never taught us to destroy emotions. He taught us to recognize them, observe them, transform them, not to run away, not to cling. When we no longer know what we're feeling, we are no longer living from the heart, but merely acting as the shadow of a person. 6. Because we've never truly learned how to live with ourselves. And this may be the deepest root of all. We may spend our entire lives learning how to earn money, build a career, nurture relationships, but never truly learn how to live with ourselves. We are always looking outward, doing things to be recognized, speaking to be accepted, acting to avoid being abandoned. But how often do we pause and ask, how am I really feeling? Or what do I truly desire? We fear being alone, but we also fear facing the truth of who we are. So we choose to stay busy, to entertain ourselves, to fill up every moment just to avoid confronting the emptiness inside. Yet no one can live fully without a relationship with their own self. The Buddha said, "To conquer oneself is the greatest victory." But to conquer yourself, you must first know yourself and have the courage to stay with yourself. Living with yourself is not selfish. It is the foundation of true understanding, genuine love, and authentic living. We must relearn gently and patiently how to listen, how to be present, how to love ourselves like an old, trusted friend, to return to ourselves. These are the reasons why we lose ourselves, by living according to external models, chasing achievements, playing social roles, disconnecting from emotions, and losing the ability to be present. Now, it is time to stop, not to analyze more, but to see more deeply. Because if we only stay at the surface, only recognize the outer symptoms, that kind of awareness will never be enough to liberate us. To understand at the root, we must return guided by the light of Buddhist wisdom. And when we return, the very first thing we must recognize is ignorance, the first link in the 12 links of dependent origination, the cycle that governs samsara and suffering. In the Dharma, ignorance, avijja, is not simply a lack of information. It is the inability to see the true nature of all phenomena. It is not seeing clearly that this body is impermanent, that this mind arises from conditions, and that this world is a temporary gathering of causes and conditions. From that distorted view, we give rise to discrimination, attachment to self, craving, and clinging, and we are swept away by the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death, endlessly wandering in the maze of delusion. When a person does not recognize the impermanent nature of body and mind, they will cling to appearances, youth, status, and possessions, as if those were the foundations of life's value. When they do not understand that the mind is conditioned, constantly changing based on circumstances, they begin to identify themselves with fleeting emotions. When they are happy, they think they are capable. When they are sad, they feel worthless. They do not realize that emotions are merely waves on the surface of the ocean rising and falling, while the awareness observing those emotions is the unchanging ground beneath it all. In Zen, there is a beautiful image. The mind is like a bright mirror, reflecting everything, yet clinging to nothing. But over time, that mirror becomes covered with dust of delusion, of judgment, of ambition, of ego. And when the dust grows too thick, we can no longer see the original light. What's even more heartbreaking is that we begin to mistake the dust for who we are. Zen Master Bankei once said, "Everyone is born with Buddha, nature, but because they do not recognize it, they search everywhere." Indeed, all our striving to become better, more worthy, or more important is often not because we are lacking, but because we've forgotten the enoughness that has always been there. In the Buddhist sutras, the Buddha taught that all beings have the potential for awakening because Buddha nature is the pure, luminous awareness that is neither born nor destroyed. It is always present within each of us, like someone holding a priceless gem covered in mud, unaware of its value. That person searches everywhere for a treasure, not realizing they already possess it. All they need to do is clean away the mud, and the light will naturally shine. In the same way, practicing the Dharma is not about creating a new self, but gently removing everything that is not truly us. As a Zen teaching goes, we don't need to become Buddha Sui, only need to let go of everything that is not Buddha. What is Buddha nature? It is the capacity for awareness, compassion, and wisdom inherent in every person. It is not a reward for the best practitioners. It is a seed already within you. There is no need to create it, only to recognize it. No need to possess it, only to let go of the dust that conceals it. A person living among the mud does not lose their light because of it. The light may be hidden, but its nature remains radiant, and so are you. You do not need to be fixed to be worthy. You do not need to be perfect to be loved. Your essence was never lacking. It's just that you believed in the layers of illusion. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not as good as others. And when you believe them, you suffer. When you see that they are only illusions, you begin to be free. Greed, anger, and ignorance, these are the layers of mud that obscure the gem of your mind. But if you can sit quietly, return to your breath, and observe your body and mind with mindfulness, those layers will be washed away slowly, gently, one by one. A person living in the midst of ordinary life, busy with work, family, responsibilities, can still live in the way if they know how to stop. To stop does not mean to abandon life, but to see it more clearly. To stop is to return to the present moment, to come home to the Buddha within. In his Dharma talk, Old Path White Clouds, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "Sitting still, I see my true form in every leaf and every cloud. When I am truly present, I no longer feel lonely." That kind of seeing is the vision of one who has begun to awaken, not seeing oneself as a separate ego needing to be validated, but as a part of the living stream of life, breathing and flowing with all beings. From the Buddhist view, losing oneself is not a mistake. It is simply a stage in the process of awakening, just as the moon is sometimes. Just like the moon sometimes covered by cloud sits, light is never lost, and every moment of suffering, every time we feel lost, is truly a doorway that invites us to return. Return to that original awareness before concepts, judgments, and ego arose. Return to the breath, not something to be forced, only something to be present with. Return to the primordial mind where there is no duality, no gain or loss, no right or wrong, no self and other. And from there, something miraculous begins to happen. We realize that we never truly lost anything. We simply forgot. Awakening is not something grand or distant. Awakening is knowing that you are washing your face when you wash your face. It is knowing that you are sad when you are sad. It is recognizing your anger without letting it take over. The Buddha did not give us a religion. He offered a path to see clearly, and when we see clearly, ignorance dissolves. When ignorance dissolves, we no longer lose ourselves in layer upon layer of delusion. Let me share with you a true story. In my family, there was once a man who held a high position in government. He had only one son, and he placed all his hopes on that boy. From a young age, the child was raised with the belief that he must be exceptional, that he had to succeed and bring honor to the family name. He was given everything, and soon he learned that if he wanted something, he just had to try hard enough, and he would get it. As an adult, he started a large company not out of passion, but to prove his worth, to be seen as successful and admirable. But life does not always follow our plans. The company failed. His family had to sell nearly everything to cover the losses. He fell into a deep crisis, became depressed, sleepless, directionless. It was as if life no longer had anything to hold him up. In that moment, his parents also woke up. They realized they had expected too much and had loved him without mindfulness. And it was that very love, lacking awareness, that caused their son to forget who he was without achievement. This is a real-life image of what Buddhist teachings call the effect of ignorance. When we live in illusion, fear of being abandoned, in constant need for approval, slowly lose the capacity to return to the wholeness of our original nature. Without mindfulness, without stopping to reflect, we end up blaming others, our circumstances, our worker, even blaming ourselves. But when we turn inward, we begin to see. What needs to be let go is not the world, but our distorted view of it. We don't need to seek more. We just need to let go of the unnecessary. From that story, we learn that wrong views and wrong thinking are the roots of suffering. And in the Noble Eightfold Path, Buddha's path to liberation, the very first two elements are right view, samadhyāth, and right thought, sammasankappa. Because if our view is incorrect, everything we do afterwards, no matter how well-intentioned, can still lead to error. But if our view is correct, then no matter how stormy life becomes, we can still return peaceful and steady. The Buddha placed right view at the very beginning of the Eightfold Path for a reason. For if the view is distorted, then the rest of the path thinking, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration will be misguided. A lantern turned in the wrong direction cannot illuminate the path. Therefore, the very first and most essential step on the journey back to ourselves is to recognize what is clouding our vision and what kind of ignorance we are currently living under. We must see deeply. Are we living from a place of freedom or from fear? Are we working to be recognized or from inner joy? Are we identifying ourselves with this body, with emotions, with titles, or social roles? If we haven't seen clearly, then no matter how much we try, we are still revolving around a center that is not real. That kind of seeing clear and wise cannot come from books, theories, or blind beliefs. It only arises when we slow down, live truthfully, and truly listen to ourselves with mindfulness. Even someone who has never practiced meditation can begin with the simplest of things, taking a few minutes each day to pause, to breathe, and to observe their body and mind. Gently noticing the stream of thoughts passing by, the emotions rising and falling without reacting, without clinging, without rushing, simply being present wholeheartedly and honestly. That is the very first step of mindfulness in daily life. In a world that constantly urges us to become someone, the Buddha's path gently leads us homina to become anyone else, but to return to who we already are. Looking back at all the patterns we've explored above, a common thread appears. Every act of losing ourselves begins with a false belief. I am not enough. Because we believe we are not enough. We try to be better, more talented, more lovable, more valuable. But under the light of the Dharma, you are already enough simply because you are breathing, because you are here. The Buddha never taught us to change the world, nor did he ask us to become some ideal version of ourselves. He simply showed us how to see clearly, to see that this body is impermanent so we no longer cling, to see that this mind arises from causes and conditions so we no longer identify with it, and to see that life is a flowing, ever-changing stream so we no longer suffer over what passes. He taught us to awaken to the truth that we have never been separate from our radiant, peaceful, and complete nature. It's just that we forgot. Covered by layers of ambition, expectation, and fear, we mistakenly believed we were lost. So, if you have ever felt confused, or as though you were no longer yourself, please remember, you are not alone. That feeling is not a failure, is a quiet whisper from within, reminding you to pause. Not to accomplish something great, but simply to listen. I am reminded of a simple but profound story. A young student full of anxiety and doubt came to visit an old Zen master. The student asked, "Master, why do I always feel like everything I do is too small? I've tried so hard, achieved many things, yet I still feel empty. No matter what I add to my life, the joy never lasts. Why is that?" The master didn't answer right away. He silently poured water into a cup. When the cup was full, he kept pouring until the water overflowed. The student panicked. "Master, the cup is overflowing." The Zen master calmly replied, "That is your mind. No matter how much recognition, success, or accomplishment you pour, in it overflows. Because your cup has already been full for a very long time." Perhaps many of us are carrying such a cup already full, but we've never stopped to look inside and realize that we already have enough. So we keep adding more tasks, more success, more relationships, more qualifications, and still feel empty. Because we've never seen that true fullness begins not from the outside, but from within. A Zen master once said, "Knowing what is enough is the greatest treasure." And the Buddha also taught, "One who lives simply, who returns to the self, who knows the self as a place of refuge, that person is truly happy." Happiness in the midst of an imperfect life. To know what is enough does not mean giving up effort. It means ending the inner struggle. It means working not from lack, but from a place of offering. It means listening not to be loved, but because love already resides within you. And it is precisely because of the mistaken belief that we are not enough that we keep reaching outward, chasing what we think will bring us happiness. We seek it in our jobs, our reputation, our relationships, in the eyes of others. But the more we search, the more we forget. Happiness is not out there. It is right here, in this moment, always present deep within USA Place, we so rarely pause to look into. Happiness is not a destination. It is the ability to live fully with what we already have. Imagine this. You have a healthy body, a nourishing meal, a warm home, work to do, someone to love, and a breath that gently rises and falls in your chest. Meanwhile, out there, countless people are living in war, in illness, in poverty, in loss. Some only wish for one day to stand, to walk, or to breathe without a machine. So if you still have these things right now, can you see how blessed you already are? I'm not saying this to make you compare yourself to others who are less fortunate. I only wish to gently remind you that we already have many conditions for happiness, yet we often don't know how to receive them. We brush past simple moments as though they're nothing, while chasing distant things to fill an inner emptiness, a space that can never be filled with possessions or achievements. And as we keep running after distorted ideas of success proving ourselves through work, wealth, appearance, and relationships, life becomes heavier, more pressured, and increasingly directionless. Each step forward takes us further from the inner peace we started with. We no longer work for joy, but out of fear of being left behind. We no longer learn for the love of knowledge, but to avoid being seen as inadequate. And in doing so, we trade authentic living for the shadow of a self. So, what is the solution? Should we stop trying, give up all effort? No, that's not it. You can still learn, work, beautify, love, give, and contribute, but not because you feel lacking. Do it because you already feel whole, and you simply want to experience more of life. Care for yourself not because you dislike who you are, but because you value this body. Learn not to prove anything, but because you love wisdom. Create not to be praised, but because you love life and want to add beauty to the world. The difference lies here, the same action. But if it comes from fear, it brings exhaustion. If it comes from gratitude and clarity, it brings joy and freedom. In Buddhism, this is the difference between clinging and letting go. The clinging mind always wants more than others, more than who we were yesterday, more than some ideal version of ourselves. But the letting go mind still acts, still engages in life with energy, but without attachment. Like when you meditate, you don't meditate to become a good practitioner, but to cleanse your mind of dust. You don't love to possess, but to give. You don't learn to increase your worth, but to enrich your inner life. You don't work to prove yourself, but because you find happiness in fully living each moment of the work itself. The feeling of not enough slowly dissolves not because you've achieved something great, but because you've learned to let go. Let go of the illusion of lack. Let go of others' expectations. Let go of your own harsh self-judgments. The Buddha never told beings, try harder to become a better person. He simply said, be awake and know what is enough. Happiness is here. Why? Because he did not see you through the lens of success, morality, or status. He saw straight into your essence, where all beings carry the same Buddha nature. The Buddha taught, all phenomena are like illusions. Everything is like a mirage and nothing is fixed or solid. When the mind arises, all things arise. When the mind ceases, all things cease. If your mind sees lack, the world will appear threatening, judgmental, and cold. But if your mind sees fullness, you will look out with compassion and spaciousness. You will feel the whole universe holding you close. This is not blind faith. It is a return to reality's true nature. In Buddhism, it is called emptiness, yet it is completely full. Emptiness here does not mean void or nothingness, but the absence of inherent, separate selfhood. Like a flower, it exists only because of earth, water, sunlight, time, and the care of a gardener. It cannot exist by itself. So too with people, emotions, thoughts, everything is interdependent. When we see this, we release our grasping. We no longer cling tightly to I, mine, or it must be this way. We begin to live in the flow of impermanence, knowing that nothing can be held on to, that nothing needs to be held on to. It may sound like a paradox. How can emptiness mean enough? But imagine the sky empty, yet capable of holding every cloud. It possesses nothing, yet lacks nothing. It compares itself to no one, yet remains vast, open, and embracing. Your mind, when free of attachment, is like that sky. Just let go of mistaken beliefs, and you'll see that you have always been enough. You don't need achievements to be worthy. You don't need to erase every mistake to be loved. You just need to look at yourself through a new lens zone, not clouded by greed, fear, or resentment, and you will see. You have always been you, and you have always had everything you need for a peaceful life. Awakening is not about reaching some transcendent state. It is not about holding on to mori. It is about letting go of what is not true. It is not about adding more knowledge, more skills, more titles, or accomplishments. It is about removing the masks, peeling away the roles you've played throughout life. The good child, the perfect employee, the ideal partner, the one who must always be strong. Awakening is the courage to lay them down, not to become less, but to return to your essence. That place where you no longer have to prove anything, where you don't have to strive to become, only to be. This kind of letting go in Buddhism is not resignation. It is not avoidance or defeat. It is deep liberation. Liberation from the conditions that bind you. Liberation from the pressure to always be right, always be beautiful, always be successful. Liberation from the false image you've unknowingly believed to be yourself. A person who has enough is not someone who no longer feels pain, but someone who understands. I am not this pain. I am the one who sees it clearly and holds it in mindfulness. You don't need to push pain away. You simply need to recognize it and care for it, like an old friend returning after years of being forgotten. A person who feels enough is not someone without mistakes. Rather, it's someone who no longer uses those mistakes to define their worth. They no longer say, I am a failure, but simply, I am learning. Awakening is when you have the courage to sit with yourself without avoidance, without judgment, without blame. It's when you dare to ask, what is truly happening in me right now? What am I believing? And who is the one believing it? These questions don't require immediate answers. They only need to be asked to open the door for truth to enter. And gradually, you will begin to see. The wounds you've hidden for so long don't need to disappear in order for you to be loved. They only need to be seen, acknowledged, held with a gentle gaze. Just like the child inside you doesn't need a lecture, it needs a hug, a wholehearted, unconditional embrace. In Buddhism, there is a foundational yet profound practice known as the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, Satipatthana, mindfulness of the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. This is not just an academic concept, it is a living path of awareness, a way to return to ourselves, to see clearly, and to gently untangle what has long been knotted within us. You don't need to be a monk or have years of meditation experience to begin. You can start right now, right where you are, with your own body and your breath. First, begin with mindfulness of the body, noticing how your body is in this moment. Sit quietly for a while. No need to force anything. No need to meditate like someone you once saw. Just sit as if you are resting. Bring your attention to how your body feels. Are your shoulders tight? Is your neck tense? Is your breathing fast? You don't need to fix it. Just notice it. See clearly. This body is tense. This body is breathing. This body is sitting. And also notice, this body is always changing. It cannot be fully controlled or held onto. That is mindfulness of the body, to loosen your grip on the idea that this body is me or mine. Next is mindfulness of feelings, becoming aware of the emotions or sensations present in this moment. Are you feeling anxious, sad, or at ease? Feelings come and go like waves. Don't label them as good or bad, right or wrong. Just silently acknowledge. This is a feeling of worry. Then breathe. This is a feeling of calm. Then breathe again. Slowly, you will see. Emotions are not enemies. They are signals. When you know how to listen, they dissolve. No suppression, no attachment. Then comes mindfulness of the mind turning inward to observe the flow of your thoughts and awareness. Where is your mind wandering? Is it planning something? Replaying the past? Wanting something? Just watch, like watching a child run around the house. The mind is as impermanent as the body and feelings. There is no fixed I in the mind. When the mind is calm, know that it is calm. When it is restless, just breathe and note, this is a restless mind. No need to fight it. Mindfulness is about seeing, not controlling. Finally, mindfulness of phenomena, Dhamma. Seeing that everything you experience, from body, feelings, and thoughts to everything around you, is Dhamma. It is all a manifestation of dependent origination. Nothing exists independently. Nothing exists forever. This doesn't lead to. This does not make us pessimistic, it helps us let go. When we truly see impermanence, non-self, and dependent origination, we are no longer burdened by the need to hold on, to be right, or to be better than others. You can practice the Four Foundations of Mindfulness while walking, washing dishes, folding clothes, riding the bus, or just before sleep. You don't need a perfect setting. You don't need to sit cross-legged on a mountaintop. You just need to pause and look deeply. Your body is moving. Know that the body is moving. Your mind is troubled. Know that the mind is troubled. A thought arises. see it arise, then let it go. An emotion, come a smile at it, and breathe. You don't need to do anything grand. You just need to be present. You practice this not to become a Buddhist scholar, but to gently release your attachment to the image of who you think you are. And as you let go one thing at a time, you'll start to feel lighter. Not because everything is done, but because you've put down a burden you didn't even know you were carrying. I love a line from the Dhammapada. Though one may conquer 1,000 men in battle, the one who conquers himself is the greatest of victors. It reminds us, you don't need to fight the world. You only need to pause and look within, because it is only there, not out there, that you can truly meet yourself. I understand you may be thinking, this sounds beautiful, but my life doesn't allow me to stop. I completely understand. You have work to do, a family to care for, bills to pay, responsibilities, deadlines, a life that never seems to slow down. But awakening doesn't require your entire day. It only asks for a moment. One mindful breath before you drink water. 3 deep breaths before sending an email. One kind word to yourself when you look in the mirror each morning. Awakening does not live on the peaks of the Himalayas or within distant monasteries. Awakening arises right where you are if you know how to pause. You don't need 10 years of practice. You only need 10 seconds of full presence again and again throughout the day. And from those small moments of presence, a whole, self-peaceful, whole, and real will slowly emerge within you. Not through effort, not through pressure, not through striving to become, but through gentle being. You'll begin to notice you no longer need to pretend to be strong. You no longer need to be perfect. You no longer need to perform a role in front of others. And the beautiful thing is, when you let go of the false image, others can finally connect with you, touch the truest part of who you are. No longer are your relationships built upon expectations or ideals, but rooted in the love between 2 human beings, both learning to accept themselves and the imperfect parts of each other. You don't need to become someone new to be loved. You only need to allow yourself to be present as you are and to receive love fully, unconditionally. And that is the first step of awakening. It is not a journey of climbing upward, but a process of falling away from the old layers, from pretense, from expectation, until finally you land in the most gentle truth. You are enough. You are here. And you have always been you. You know, there is a beautiful paradox in one of the Buddha's teachings that I always remember. When you no longer try to be special, you begin to touch the true specialness within you. We often believe that enough is a finish line, that we must achieve something, meet a certain standard, surpass others, even surpass who we were yesterday to finally be worthy, lovable, and seen. But the Dharma says otherwise. In the light of right view, there is no final destination, no mold you must fit into. There is only one thing you must do. See your true nature, the part of you that has never lacked, never broken, and never left you not even for a moment. Have you ever felt insecure in love? Ever tried to be better, more attractive, more successful just to keep someone from leaving? Have you ever held yourself back in a relationship, afraid that if they saw the real you, they would be disappointed and walk away? If you have, you're not alone. Most of us have loved from a place of fear. few of us were ever taught how to love from fullness. In Buddhism, this is known as attachment love. Aditya kind of love that comes with clinging, possession, and conditions. When you don't feel whole, you seek someone to fill the emptiness. And when they leave, you fall apart because you believe your worth left with them. But if you can return to the Buddha nature within, you will love differently. You will love not to be filled, but to share. You won't need anyone to validate your value because you will know you are already a whole sky. When someone comes, you'll cherish them. When someone leaves, you'll smile and bless their path. When you live from inner fullness, you no longer need to strive. You don't have to perform. You no longer fear being left behind. Love, then, becomes no longer a transaction, but a natural presence, tender and unconditional. And not just in love, but in work, in friendship, in everyday interactions, this feeling of, I am already enough, becomes the root of freedom and lightness. You no longer work to prove yourself. You work because you love what you do. You no longer need everyone to agree with you. You just need to live in truth with yourself. You no longer chase goals as a way to prove your worth. You walk with your goals as part of a journey of wholehearted living. A person who lives from within is not lazy or passive. On the contrary, they live with depth and responsibility, but they are not driven by fear or pressure to achieve. They still have work, family, plans, and dreams, but inside, there is stillness, no need to compete, no need to struggle. And that, in itself, radiates a peaceful energy. The Buddha once said, "When the mind is pure, the world is pure." You don't need to change the whole world. You only need to cleanse your own mind from illusions, comparisons, and doubts about your self-worth. When that happens, the world you live in will become gentler too. You will find yourself speaking more slowly, eating with more gratitude, looking at others with eyes of understanding and love instead of judgment. You'll notice that you no longer want to do more, but to live deeper. And it is from this depth of being that you'll finally touch true fullness, a fullness that doesn't depend on external conditions, but arises from being fully present in your body and mind. Learning to be compassionate with yourself. When you no longer try to become someone, when you begin to let go of the roles, the masks, the must be and should be, the first thing you may realize is that you've been neglecting yourself for far too long. In that space of awareness, something natural begins to arise, not success, not wisdom, but a quiet, deep longing. I want to be with myself like a true friend. And here, you'll need to learn something profoundly important, something we so often offer to others, but rarely give to ourselves. That is compassion. We often think of compassion as gentleness, forgiveness, or kindness toward others, especially those who are suffering. But rarely are we taught that we, too, are suffering, and that the first person who needs to be held, to be understood, and to be loved is ourselves. Compassion is not weakness. Compassion is deep courage. It is the strength to sit with the pain we once avoided. It is the bravery to stay beside ourselves, not rushing to fix, not forcing yourself to be better, not saying, "Come on, stop being so weak," but simply being there like a true friend, placing your hand over your heart and whispering, "I know you've tried so hard. I see you. I'm here with you." Even if that you is messy, hurting, imperfect, and unrecognized, you are still worthy of love. Have you ever spoken to yourself like this? Why are you so stupid? You always ruin everything. If you don't try harder, you'll never be anyone. No one will ever truly love you. If so, then you've become familiar with the toxic inner voice, the persistent whisper no one else hears, but which silently shapes your emotions, guides your behavior, and slowly pulls you away from yourself. And the painful irony is, you would never speak that way to a close friend. If someone else failed, you would offer comfort. If a child cried, you would hold them. But when you are the one who fails, you become the first to attack yourself. Why? Because somewhere along the way, you were taught or came to believe that only harshness leads to growth. That if you go soft on yourself, you'll become lazy, weak, or mediocre. And beneath all that, there lies a deeper belief. I don't deserve kindness, not even from myself. That is the deepest wound. And that is where true healing begins. Think about this slowly with me. When you drive yourself forward with harsh words, with cold silence, with heavy judgmentary, you really becoming happier? Maybe you achieved more, but do you feel lighter, safer, closer to yourself? Or do you feel as though you're building your life on a foundation of self-rejection? In the Buddhist Sutras, there's a beautiful teaching. Treat yourself like a mother would treat her only child. Just imagine that. Close your eyes and picture yourself as a small child who just fell, who is crying from pain, from shame, from fear. What would you want your mother to do? Criticize you? Judge you? Or would you want her to hold you and say, "It's okay, I'm still here"? And if you can do that for yourself, then you have already taken a profound step on the path of awakening. You don't have to wait for someone to come and soothe you. You are the one who can create the first safe space. And from that place, old wounds will begin to soften slowly, gently. Self-compassion is not a vague concept. It is a journey of relearning how to treat ourselves with eyes of understanding and love. And you can begin this journey in a very gentle way through these 3 gateways of practice. 1. Self-compassion through inner speech. Take a moment to listen. What are you saying to yourself each day? Every time you make a mistake, miss a deadline, act clumsily, what kind of voice do you hear in your mind? Is it something like, "Why am I so useless? I failed again. I'm just a mess"? These words, you may have never said them to anyone else, but you say them to yourself, not just once, but over and over. And you've lived with that inner voice for a very long time. Now, try something different. Pause, breathe deeply, and gently offer a new voice. You don't have to believe it right away. You don't have to feel it's true just yet. Just say the things you may have never heard as a child, but always needed. I'm learning. Mistakes are part of the process. I'm tired and I deserve to be kind to myself. These small phrases are like medicine healing the part of you that has grown too used to harshness. 2. Self-compassion through small daily actions. Love is not only in what we say, but in how we care for our body and our soul. Begin with very simple acts. Rest when you're tired, without waiting to collapse. Eat a nourishing meal slowly, without rushing, without scrolling. Sit in the sunlight for a few minutes, feeling the breeze and the warmth on your skin. Pour a glass of water as if you're offering it to someone you dearly love. Walk slowly without headphones, without a screen, just to be present with your steps. These are small things, but they are powerful signals you send to your nervous system, to your heart that say, "I'm here with myself. I am learning how to love myself in a very real way." And through these small actions, you'll begin to feel a different kind of life. One that is not rushed, not transactional, but deep and true. 3. Self-compassion in your way of living. Many people begin their personal growth journey with a big question: how can I become better? It's not a wrong question, but if you're not careful, it can become a burden. The more you try to be better, the more you feel like you're not enough. So try changing the question just a little. How can I love myself more even while I'm still not perfect? When you begin with love, your motivation no longer comes from competition or comparison. It comes from a deeper place, a sense of gratitude for being alive and a quiet reverence for your own existence. And you will notice, you'll become softer, but not weaker. You'll move more slowly, but with more steadiness. You'll feel lighter, but with more depth. You will no longer use success to hide your wounds. You'll have the courage to show up as you are with your imperfections. And when you can hold those imperfections with care, that is the true beginning of compassion. When you begin practicing compassion toward yourself even in small ways, with unfamiliar words or gentle actions, there is something very important you must remember. Compassion is not a reward you receive after becoming good enough. Compassion is the foundation that allows you to begin again with all your imperfect parts. Many of us carry an unconscious belief. I have to change first. Then I'll deserve my own love. I have to finish healing then. I'll be worthy of a healthy relationship. I have to become strong, wise, calm before I can face my fragile self. But that is not awakening. That is the subtle trap of the ego. The ego doesn't want you to love yourself now. It wants you to fix, upgrade, improve, and promises that someday you'll finally be worthy. It says, when you're no longer weak, then I'll accept you. But the more you chase that condition, the further you drift from your own heart. Buddhism teaches the opposite. Not try hard, then you'll be worthy of love. But rather, when you know how to love yourself, you will have the strength to try. Compassion is not indulgence. It is a renewing force, a quiet strength that keeps you from collapsing every time you fall. It is the very material that helps you heal not because you must become someone, but because you deserve love, even in your brokenness. Compassion requires no standard, no condition. It is simply the presence of a mindful heart with yourself in each moment. And you can begin right now, no matter where you are, who you are, or what inner chaos you carry. A small story is told. Ravi was a man in his 30s, working as a technical team lead at a tech company. He was hardworking, responsible, trusted by his boss, respected by his co-workers. From the outside, everything looked fine, a good job, decent income, stable family life. But inside, Ravi lived with a voice you might find familiar. I'm still not as good as others. I have to get better to rise higher. I need to do more, otherwise someone will surpass me. To escape the feeling of not enough, Ravi worked more. He took on extra tasks. He was the guy answering messages at midnight, checking emails during dinner with his family. But the more he did, the more pressured and empty he felt. Then one day, after lashing out at his wife over something trivial, really just frustration from unfinished work, Ravi realized something was breaking. It wasn't about his wife. It wasn't even about the job. Something inside him was quietly falling apart. Soon after, a friend introduced him to a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat. 10 days of silence, no talking, no noise, no contact with the outside world. Just Ravi sitting in stillness, facing his own mind, observing sensations in his body, guided by the teachings of a masterful meditation teacher. In those 10 days of deep observation, correction, and quiet mastery of the mind, he began to see all the impurities he had carried inside. He finally understood how greed, anger, and delusion had driven his life for years. They had pulled him into the whirlpool of ambition and material pursuit, while robbing him of what truly matters, peace and happiness. Ravi began to appreciate himself, truly appreciate everything around him. He learned to open his heart in compassion toward himself and toward others. He began to welcome whatever life brought, whether joyful or painful, with more softness and understanding. He didn't walk out of the retreat trying to become someone new. He didn't stop being skilled. He didn't quit his job. He didn't meditate all day. He simply began to pause, to observe. And when difficulties came, when unwholesome thoughts surfaced, he learned not to react. He let them rise, let them fall, and slowly they passed. You see, when you truly stop, sit down and observe your body and mind in mindfulness. Just as Ravi did in the Vipassana retreat, your consciousness begins to open doors that logic, achievement, or striving have never been able to reach. It is not some mystical enlightenment. It is a very clear seeing. This mind is constantly fluctuating. This body is always changing, and every sensation, pleasant or unpleasant, is simply a wave, rising and falling. During those 10 days of silence, Ravi did not run from his pain as he once did. He didn't use his phone. He didn't bury himself in work. He didn't numb out with a cup of coffee to avoid his feelings. He simply sat still. He observed every wave of back pain, every passing thought, every breath. No reaction, no chasing, no resistance. And it was in that very space of non-interference, that space of clear seeing, that he finally returned to the heart of himself. If possible, consider attending a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat. This is a direct, grounded, and powerful practice of the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, a path the Buddha taught as the most certain way to awakening. For 10 days, you will keep silence, no reading, no writing, no speaking, no outside contact. Instead, you will be guided step by step to cultivate mindfulness through the breath, N, P, Nasati. Observe bodily sensations and their impermanent nature, Vedan, Nupassan. And develop wisdom by seeing clearly the truth of impermanence, non-self, and non-attachment in everything that arises within the body and mind. Vipassana home practice. Step 1, 30 minutes daily. Step 1, prepare your space. Choose a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Sit on a meditation cushion or a chair with your back upright but relaxed, not stiff. Gently close your eyes. Rest your hands softly on your thighs or with open palms. Step 2, observe the breath. Anapanasati, 10-15 minutes. Bring your attention to the triangular area below the nose where the breath touches. Do not control the breath. Simply notice. Breath in, breath out. Cool, warm, shallow, deep, just. Observe whatever is there. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the breath. No judgment, no forcing. Purpose. To develop initial concentration. SAM, the foundation for deeper body and sensation observation. Step 3, observe bodily sensations. Vipassana, 15-20 minutes. Once the mind is calmer from breath awareness, begin to scan the body. Move your attention gradually in sequence. Head, face, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, chest, abdomen, back, hips, legs, feet, toes. Then reverse. At each area, observe whatever sensation is present. Heat, cold, tingling, pressure, vibration, itchiness, heaviness, lightness, or even no sensation at all. Do not judge the sensation as good or bad. Do not react to it. Do not wish it to change. Just see it and maintain equanimity, upek. Note, this practice may seem simple, but it is powerful. Through consistent, balanced observation, you are slowly training your mind to break free from reactivity and to see the impermanent, impersonal nature of all experiences. When the sensation is pleasant, do not crave it. When it is unpleasant, do not resist it. Simply understand, all sensations are impermanent. They come and go. They rise and fall. They are born and they pass away. A few gentle but essential reminders. You don't need to feel something special. Vipassana is not about seeing mystical visions. It's about seeing clearly what is right now within your body and mind. You don't need to achieve perfect concentration. Each time your mind wanders and you realize at that very moment is a moment of awakening. You don't need to fight your thoughts. You only need not to follow them. Persistence is key. Little by little, your awareness will grow, and you will begin to feel sensations in your body more clearly. And if you continue to practice just 30 minutes a day, you will gradually notice something quite extraordinary. Your habitual reactions no longer arise automatically. When tension builds, you may suddenly realize, a wave of anger is rising. And simply by seeing it without reacting, you step out of the automatic loop. You begin to live as a mindful being. You don't need a 10-day retreat to start, but you do need 10 to 30 minutes of daily mindfulness to begin changing how you see the world and how you see yourself. When you observe your own body and mind without judgment, without force, without identification, that is when you begin to love yourself most deeply. And as you practice compassion toward yourself, you'll discover something quietly miraculous. You no longer demand others to heal you. You still value love. You still appreciate recognition. But you are no longer dependent on them to define your worth. You no longer live in fear of, if they don't love me, I must be unworthy. And that is a profound turning point in your spiritual life. Because when your heart has been embraced from within, you become someone who can love without needing to control. You no longer cling. You no longer force. You no longer fight for being right or holding on to the role of someone important. You stop playing the unconscious games of love like who needs who more or who leaves first. Instead, you begin to show up as a safe space, not only for yourself, but for those you care about. You start to listen more. You react less. You stop trying to read others and begin to understand yourself first. You start to see clearly which emotions are true and which are just habits of self-defense. You begin to look at your parents with understanding instead of blame, at your partner with compassion instead of demands, even at those who hurt you as people carrying their own unhealed wounds. At that point, you no longer need others to change in order for you to be happy. You change. And from there, your happiness is no longer fragile, longer easily broken. There is a saying in Zen, when one is at peace within, the whole world is at peace. When you are at peace with yourself, the world is no longer something to fear. You stop chasing love, and instead, you begin to love from a place of fullness within. You can sit next to someone without saying a word, and they will still feel loved. You can hold someone without explaining anything, and they will still feel healed. Because within you, there is no more resistance, no more armor, no more battle between ego and presence. Only truth, softness, wholeness. There is one very deep question I often ask during loving-kindness meditation. Who was I before I was hurt? How soft was my heart before it learned to close? How sincerely did I love before I learned to protect myself? And when you touch that again, you no longer need many teachings. Because your heart, when it is listened to, will begin to guide you. You no longer try to live correctly. You simply live truthfully. And that is the most correct way to live. Self-compassion, ultimately, is not just a life skill. It is the foundation of spiritual awakening. Because if you cannot love yourself, then no amount of practice, no depth of meditation, no outer image of morality will ever truly touch the pain you've never allowed yourself to feel. But one day, when you truly know how to love yourself, you'll be able to sit alone in silence not to escape, but to be fully present. You will look into your own heart and whisper, "I don't need anything more, I am here." And that is enough. And you know what? In the very moment, you can say, "I see myself." You are healing a lineage of pain passed down through generations. You are not just saving yourself. You are becoming the first in your family, your ancestry, to hold the pain instead of pushing it away. And that is the greatest gift you can give to the world. You don't need extraordinary success. You don't need to become someone remarkable. You just need to love yourself fully. Compassion for others. Once you've learned how to truly love yourself, a new door opens not, one that leads inward, but one that gently leads you outward, out of isolation, out of the guarded room built on defense and self-protection. And then you step into a larger truth, simple, yet so often forgotten. You are not alone. Every person you meet, whether it's a colleague, a loved one, or a stranger passing by, is also struggling with things you cannot see. You thought you were the only one who self-criticizes? Everyone has an inner voice whispering judgments every day. You thought you were the only one who feels less than? Even the most successful people have moments when they feel like lost, awkward children yearning to be loved. If you've ever ached from the feeling that no one understands you, remember this. The person across from you, whether it's your parent, your partner, or the child next door, is also waiting to be understood. They, too, are longing for a gaze free of judgment, a kind of listening without conditions, a touch from a heart that has known loneliness and knows just how deep it goes. The truth is, the more people live in modern society, the more they feel alone in the crowd. We stay busy. We text. We video call. We comment. We like. But the more we connect through screens, the farther we drift from each other's hearts. What people are truly lacking is not Wi-Fi, but a pair of eyes that know how to listen, a hug without agenda, a presence that doesn't rush. And you know what? You can be the one to offer that. You don't have to be a healing expert. You don't need to read books on love. Just by having gone through the journey of loving yourself, you'll know how to love others naturally, effortlessly. Because only those who have sat with their own pain can sit calmly with the pain of others. Only those who have learned to hold their imperfect parts can offer space to others without needing them to be perfect. And from there, a new kind of love begins to grow. No bargaining, no conditions, no silent expectations, just one human, seeing another with the deep knowing. I see your suffering because I too have been there. There may still be times when you find yourself thinking, why is this person so rude? Why do they keep blaming everyone? Why are they so negative? These reactions are not wrong, they're natural. But the Buddha taught, understanding is the foundation of compassion. So you can gently ask yourself instead, what kind of pain might they have experienced to become so guarded? Have they been abandoned so deeply that anger became their only defense? Maybe they've never truly been loved in the right way, just like I once hadn't. And when you ask such questions, your heart softens. You no longer see others as broken people who need fixing, but as human beings each carrying wounds that have never been touched. And you begin to see there are no true enemies. Only ignorance is the common enemy of us all. From there, you step into a deeper layer of love. A love that does not select, does not cling, does not possess, does not entangle itself in ego. Just a gentle resonance between two beings, both learning how to awaken Everyone you meet, whether familiar or a stranger, carries within them pain that has never been spoken aloud. The one who easily gets angry may be someone who's never been held. The one who constantly criticizes may be someone who's never been listened to. The cold, distant person may have once loved deeply and been deeply misunderstood. And then you realize you are not the only one who has been hurt. Each persona in their own way is learning to live with a heart that has once been broken. In a meditation session at Plum Village, Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When you understand someone's suffering, you don't want to cause them more pain. And this truth is not just for those you love. It's also for those who once hurt you." You might say, "I understand, but I'm still angry. How can I forgive that? Don't I have the right to be mad?" Yes, you have the right to feel anger. Anger is human. But the Buddha taught, holding on to anger is like grasping hot coals with the intent of throwing them at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Seeing someone suffering is not to excuse them, it is to free yourself. When you understand, you are no longer trapped in the story of right, wrong, who wins, who loses. You step out of the old drama and return to a more spacious place, a gentler place where your heart is free to breathe again. When you are present for yourself with compassion, you begin to be present for others in a truer way. You don't need to fix them. You don't need to teach them how to live. Sometimes, the only thing someone truly needs is another human being quiet enough to listen, still enough not to judge, present enough not to leave. You don't need to be perfect to offer that. You just need to be present, real, deep, and still, like a mountain. When the other is in crisis, you don't need to say anything. Just sit like a mountain, grounded, steady, breathing. Let their emotions pass like clouds floating past the mountain. You don't need to understand at all. You just need to not disappear. Your presence, when it is free from judgment or agenda, is the most powerful healing gift you can give. There is a simple yet powerful thing you can say. "I'm here." That's it. No advice needed. No solution required. No experience necessary. Sometimes all it takes is saying those simple words with a genuine heart, and the other person will feel, "I'm not alone anymore." In Buddhism, there is a beautiful concept called boundless loving kindness, metta, love without boundaries, a love that does not discriminate between familiar and unfamiliar, right and wrong, good or bad. This kind of compassion asks for only one understanding. You, like me, are learning how to walk through suffering. This doesn't mean you condone harmful behavior. You can still set boundaries. You can still say no, but you don't need to hate. You don't need to respond with rage. You respond with wisdom and with compassion. And when you live this way, something strange and beautiful happens. The separation between me and them begins to dissolve. You start to realize we are more alike than different. We all long to be seen. We all ache to be loved. We all tremble when we feel abandoned. You begin to criticize less, compare less, and stop using others' pain as an excuse to close your own heart. Then, even your smallest actions become a form of meditation. Smiling at a cashier, giving up your seat on the bus, listening to your child's stories, placing a quiet hand on the shoulder of someone anxious without saying a word. These are not just kind gestures. They are living practices of compassion woven into the fabric of daily life. The more you practice, the more your heart opens. And when your heart opens, you will begin to see something clearly. I was never truly alone. I had simply forgotten I have always been connected to everything. After everything you've gone through, once you've learned to listen to yourself, to hold your imperfections with care, and to look at others with eyes of understanding instead of judgment, something natural will unfold. Compassion will no longer be something you do for others. It becomes the foundation of how you live. It will no longer be a nice thing to do. It will be your breath. The way you walk through the world, softly, mindfully, and deeply human. You won't live compassionately because you want to be seen as good. You will live this way because it is how you stay rooted in yourself amidst the chaos of this world. And strangely, when you finally let go of the idea, I must help others, I must save the world, that is exactly when you truly become a light for others, not through your words, not through your philosophy, but through your quiet, honest, peaceful presence. A presence that tells people they don't need to defend themselves anymore, that they can breathe, that they can be themselves when they're with you. Start today, perhaps. Begin by seeing every person you encounter as someone also walking the path back to themselves. When someone is angry, see that they are in pain. When someone is cold, see that they are protecting themselves. When someone seems distant, remember, maybe they've never been touched with warmth. You don't have to change them. Just don't close your heart. And then, in the middle of relationships, conflicts, misunderstandings, you can still hold on to something simple, yet unshakable. I will not cause harm. I will not react from my ego. I choose to understand instead of resent. I choose to love instead of push away. And that choice quiet, unseen by most is, in fact, a deep act of awakening. You don't need to sit on a mountain. You don't need to attain mystical enlightenment. You just need to live as a human being who knows how to love. To love humbly, gently, steadily. And when you live this way, you become a small flame within the forest of humanity at night. You don't need to be brilliant. You don't need to be great. You just need to shine enough for someone who's lost in the dark to find their way by your light. Let me share with you the story of Angulimala, a figure well known in the Buddhist scriptures. His birth name was Ahimsaka, meaning the harmless one. He was born into an esteemed Brahmin, family bright, sharp, and the most outstanding student of a revered master. But because of his brilliance, he drew jealousy from his peers. Quietly, they sowed seeds of suspicion in the heart of their teacher. And one day, blinded by anger and delusion, that teacher looked at his best disciple with eyes full of mistrust. He said to Ahimsaka, "If you truly want to attain enlightenment, you must take on a higher path. You must kill 1,000 people, and from each take a finger to make a mala, prayer bead, necklace." And so, a kind young man out of blind faith in his teacher was transformed into a murderer. People feared him so deeply that they gave him a new name, Angulimala, the one who wears a necklace of fingers. After killing 999 people, Angulimala returned to his village and prepared to kill the very woman who had given birth to him. But fortunately, the Buddha knew of this, and he appeared on the very road where Angulimala was walking. Angulimala saw the Buddha serene monk walking calmly down an empty path and immediately began to chase him with the intent to kill. However, no matter how fast Angulimala ran, he could not catch up with the Buddha. Frustrated, he shouted, "Monk, stop right there." The Buddha stood still, turned, and replied, "Angulimala, I have already stopped long ago. It is you who has not yet stopped. That one sentence struck Angulimala to his core. Just one sentence. No dramatic preaching. No long explanation. Just one insight directly into the nature of things. And in that moment, Angulimala awoke. The bloodlust in his body felt as if it had been washed in cool, clear water. He fell to his knees before the Buddha, and from that moment, this infamous killer became Bhikkhu Angulimala monk, a sincere practitioner. Later, he attained arahantship and traveled widely, spreading the Dharma and helping others free themselves from the suffering of worldly existence. The Buddha did not look at Angulimala as a murderer. He looked at him with the eyes of compassion as a human being driven by ignorance, as a lost child wandering in a dark forest who only needed a small light to turn around. That is the heart of true compassion. Not seeing someone as wrong and rushing to fix them, but seeing that they are hurting and choosing not to punish them further. Compassion does not mean allowing harmful behavior, but compassion never repays hate with hate. Compassion means stopping so that others may also stop. You see, even someone who once took 999 lives, when seen through the eyes of awakened compassion, can return and become a being of goodness, a person who brings light and meaning into the world. So then what about Yumiya and the people around us? If we've ever taken a wrong turn, if we've ever gotten lost, or carried wounds, or held on to anger, we too deserve to begin again with a gaze that does not condemn, with a breath that gently pauses, and with a heart that remembers how to love, practicing mindfulness and awakening. And now, you've walked this far with me, through layers of dust and time, through dreams of being enough, through aches too deep for words. We have not merely spoken about compassion, mindfulness, ignorance, or awakening. We have walked a path together, gently but truthfully. Truthful like the quiet wounds in your chest. Truthful like the tear you shed when you held yourself for the first time without judgment. But if we stop here, then all that understanding will disappear like clouds. What remains is that you must begin to live in a new way, a way of presence, a way of not retreating from yourself. Guided practice, step-by-step homecoming. Do you remember the practice of the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, Satipatthana, which is also the essence of Vipassana meditation, simple, slow, but aligned with the spirit of the Buddha, as I described earlier? Each day, it doesn't need to be long, just 15 to 30 minutes of daily practice is enough to place you on the path of truly discovering yourself. Step 1. Prepare your space. Choose a quiet place, free from distractions. Sit on a meditation cushion or chair, keeping your back naturally upright, not stiff. Close your eyes. Rest your hands gently on your lap or thighs. Step 2. Observe your breath. Anapanasati, 10 minutes. Bring your attention to the small triangular area just below the nose where the breath touches. Don't control the breath. Simply notice. Breath in, breath out. Coolness, warmth, shallow, deep. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the breath without blame or force. The goal: to cultivate initial concentration, building the foundation for observing sensations in the body afterward. Step 3. Observe bodily sensations. Vipassana. Once your mind has settled through breath awareness, begin scanning your entire body. Move your attention in sequence. From the top of the head, face, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, then to the chest, abdomen, back, hips, legs, feet, toes, and then, slowly, in reverse. At each area, simply observe whatever sensations are present: heat, cold, tingling, numbness, pulsing, itching, heaviness, lightness, or even the absence of sensation. Do not judge the feeling as good or bad. Do not react. Do not wish it to change. Just see and maintain equanimity, upek. When a pleasant sensation arises, don't cling. When discomfort appears, don't resist. Just remember, all sensations are impermanent. They arise and pass, increase and fade, begin and end. Next, turn your attention to emotions. Perhaps sadness, anger, or emptiness arises. Simply observe them without reaction. Then, observe the mind. Is it restless? Is it craving something? Is it blaming someone or something? Look at it quietly, as if you were standing on the riverbank watching the current flow by. If thoughts or turbulence arise, don't resist or follow them. Just breathe deeply and slowly exhale gently, bringing your attention back to observation. Finally, look deeply into everything that is happening, the true nature of all things, impermanence, interdependence, and the absence of self. Nothing is truly me or mine. Nothing lasts forever. And in that understanding, your mind begins to release. It begins to soften. This is how, step by step, you begin to wash away the layers of dust from your mind each day. But life outside isn't always as calm as a meditation session. There are days when you're drained from work, dragging yourself home under a breathless sigh. There are mornings when you wake up with a heaviness you can't explain, just an emptiness inside, as if nothing matters anymore. There are moments when you're misunderstood, attacked, or simply facing a loved one who isn't meeting your expectations. What do you do then? You won't always have a quiet room to meditate in, but even then you can still return. Right there, in the chaos. All it takes is 10 seconds. One deep breath. Observe your mind. What is arising right now? Anger, sadness, fear, or hurt? Then gently ask yourself, am I reacting or am I truly living right now? When someone scolds you, instead of reacting immediately, you could simply pause and take a breath. Feel your heartbeat quicken. Notice the dryness in your throat. And just one slow exhale, and you've already stepped off the old track of habitual reaction. Not to suppress, but to give yourself enough space to truly see what's moving inside you and choose again. When pressure or failure weighs on you, instead of rushing to fix it or diving into work as a way to escape, you could take a step back, breathe, observe, and ask, what is truly happening in me right now? Maybe you're carrying an old wound. Maybe you're caught in an old fear. Maybe you simply need someone to ask, are you okay? And no one ever has. Sometimes, all you need is to walk a little slower on your way to work. No podcasts, no news, no replies to messages. Just walk and feel the soles of your feet touching the ground. Feel the sunlight on your shoulder. Hear the laughter of a child echoing ahead. And remember, in this moment, you are alive even if everything isn't perfect. We don't practice to become a great meditator or reach some mystical state. We practice so we can be here. So we don't abandon ourselves, especially in our most difficult moments. Closing words. And then you realize, the path you've been searching for all this time was never far away. It lives in each breath, in every moment you choose to pause, in every decision not to hurt yourself anymore. No need for anyone's approval. No need to reach a milestone. Just breathe and know that your presence here and now was enough to begin again. You don't have to be the strongest person, just the one who no longer beats yourself up when you feel weak. You don't have to be the wisest, just the one who can say gently, I know, I'm tired. You don't need to be the blazing sun. Just a small light bright enough for someone lost in the dark to find their way by. If you've ever sat alone and wished that someone could love you for real, then, my dear, that someone is already here within you. You've been there, all along. You never left. So please stop waiting for someone else to give you that love. Be the first to give it to yourself. No need for fancy words. No promises. Just place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I see you. I'm here. We still have each other." Now take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, let go of everything that is no longer truly you. No more pretending. No more pushing. No more needing to be right. Just live as someone who knows how to love. Love yourself so that one day you can love the world too, in quiet stillness. That's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for staying with me until the very last moment. If this touched something in your heart, I invite you to share your reflections in the comments below so we can walk together toward a life of peace and true happiness. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to receive more videos like this where we explore the Dharma in everyday life. Until next time, may you live deeply and love gently.